Why didn't you walk out of that church? Why, when you heard that, when you called controversial language, why did you go back and give him $27,000 in contributions to his church? Why didn't you just say, he's on a different side of this fight than I am?
No, but because I think that what's happened is we took a loop out of and compressed the most offensive things that a pastor said over the course of 30 years and just ran it over and over and over again. Now, there's that other 30 years. I never heard him say those things that were in those clips.
Yeah. But you did say you heard him say controversial things.
Well, but I hear you say controversial things.
Okay, but
and then Chris said, I'm not your pastor.
That's such a cop-out. I'm sorry, that is such a total cop-out when you have a pastor that not only says that America got what it deserved on 9/11, but called us a U.S. KKKA. He writes hate screeds against Jews. In church bulletins, he writes hate screeds against Italians. Come on, that's just a cop-out. If I said something, well, my gosh, we want to talk about loops? Let's talk about loops for a second. Don't want to make anybody uncomfortable here. Don Imus said something that lasted 2 seconds, and it was looped for a month. And guess who said Don Imus needed to quit? Barack Obama. Now let's look at Don Imus talking for 30 years, and based on a loop of 2 seconds, Barack Obama saying he needs to be fired by NBC News and CBS. Come on, he can have. I will take other explanations from him, but that's just a cop-out. Oh, they run it in loops. Is that our new standard now? That anybody can say anything as offensive as they want to say, and the defense is, oh, well, you know, I've been a good guy for 50 years. You just got 15 seconds of me saying, you know, whatever, praising David Duke or praising whomever.
Yeah. Well,
that's a cop-out.
The fact remains, a lot of people, and these are people we've all talked to, say, if I went into a church with my children and the pastor said, "Goddamn America," and the rest of these things, you just wouldn't go back to that church. There are other places to go. That's all.
Didn't hear that.
Okay, but let me tell you something else.
At this point, I would think he has heard about it.
We'll get really personal here for a second.
Okay.
My daughter goes to an Episcopal school in Florida. In the Episcopal Church, there is a visiting pastor, still is a visiting pastor there, who decided the week before Easter, instead of talk about the miracle of Jesus' rebirth, to talk about how Jews massacre Palestinians and how they are the terrorists and that the United States of America supports state terrorism. Well, guess what? Despite the fact I haven't been to that church in 6 months, despite the fact that I'm up in New York City instead of Pensacola, Florida, my phone rang off the hook from 20 different people from Christ Church in Pensacola, Florida, talking about how this pastor used his pulpit to make political statements against Israel and to blast United States foreign policy. Now, please, had I been a member of that church for 20 years, the Sunday after September 11th, the pastor goes on a winder like that one, a bender like that one. Please, Barack Obama, tell me many things. Tell me that you haven't bowled in years, and maybe I'll buy that. But don't tell me you didn't hear what your pastor said, because you and I both know that's just not the truth. Come up with a better excuse than that, and Americans will take it. But that one...
Well,
that one doesn't wash.
I have an argument for it. I'm not sure you want me to go there, but the argument may be that in that church, they did not necessarily, everybody in that church knows the pastor, and they were not...
They weren't shocked.
They weren't shocked.
So if they weren't shocked by him saying, "Goddamn America," if they weren't shocked by him calling the United States the U.S. KKKA, if they weren't shocked by him saying that we deserve what we get on September 11th, if they weren't shocked at anti-Semitic tirades in church bulletins, if they weren't shocked by anti-Italian tirades in church bulletins, and guess what? Neither was Barack Obama. So why was he there? He's got no way out of this.
Well,
the only way out of it is I made a mistake. This guy, I do not associate myself with this guy's work. But to say, oh, you're doing these things in loop. Do you buy this, Willie?
No, it's
so
not going to fly.
Any of you guys behind the cameras buy this?
Are you
Anybody in the newsroom? Nobody buys this.
No, hold on. What are you saying he should have said? What's your point?
I made a mistake. I should have got up and walked out of the church. I was too loyal to that church because that church brought me to Jesus Christ, and I love the pastor too much, but I was blinded by it. I should have got up and walked out. I'm sorry I made a mistake, and we'll be right